will take stupid all day long. Stupid. Send me 10
I
stupid people.
think, all right, yeah, but I'm...
Not
okay,
I. Not
maybe
I.
stupid's not the right word.
I think that's where you...
Not I. That's where I draw the line.
I think deliberate stupidness is more specifically what I'm talking... The ignorance. You know what I mean?
Like laziness.
Lazy, you don't know how to use the copier at this point?
Do you really not know?
Do you really not know how to figure out, because no one taught me how to use that copier.
Right.
I used my eyes.
You guys are like speaking each other's love language right now.
Because I used my eyes and I looked at the pictures it showed me.
Troubleshooting.
Yeah.
I had trouble.
It showed me what to do.
The fucking face. And if you don't troubleshoot, I'm going to shoot you in the fucking face is what I'm going to do. You know?
I wish I could say that.
Hey, this is Amrita and Andrew. We're on a podcast journey to find our way through freelance life. If you're thinking about taking a leap off the beaten path in any part of your life, our inexpert advice is, don't think twice.
Anyway, let's get back to your list.
I keep smiling because
there's no list.
The list is like so not a list. It's so it's like the stupidest list of all time. Okay, so I've written. It's another instance of something I've written down but not fully thought through. I RSVP'd to go to a nude.
What?
A nude singing bowl sound bath.
Yes.
Do you know about this? Did I tell you
We
this?
briefly talked about this weeks ago, I feel.
Okay, so...
Did you go?
Mm-mm. I wanted to go.
Oh, you RSVP'd and didn't show up? That is so rude.
No.
Okay.
I RSVP'd with every intention of showing up. And then it was like at somebody's... You know what? This sounds so sketchy as I'm like saying it. It was in a home. It was in like a private home.
Yes.
But it was like an event.
A home that hosts events regularly.
Correct.
So this is not a...
Right. It's not like
Yeah.
I bought a ticket from...
And this is in New York, this
because
is pretty typical.
venues are tough to come by, and especially,
Right.
I mean, I don't know anything about
You can't find a
nudism.
venue that's going to let you be nude.
Although the yoga place I go to up here,
Does nude yoga?
they do nude yoga for like women's nude yoga every now and again, which I just think
We need to talk about nude yoga for a second because
it's
Jed
just,
asked me about nude yoga.
Like whether you would do it. Has he done it?
He has never done it.
Okay.
But he was like, "Oh, would you do nude yoga?"
The answer for me is a hard no.
It's a flaccid, soft no
hard,
for me.
Yeah. Same, actually. Yeah.
You know?
Like dangling
bits. Yeah.
There's a lot of also just like, I mean, maybe this is equally uncomfortable for men and women, but like there's like a lot of like deep lunging and squatting and spreading that like would make me very uncomfortable.
It's just close quarters. I would need to know the distance between people.
Well, and also it's New York. Space is a commodity. You could really have your face like really up in someone's butt, which has happened to me before.
It's happened to me too, in a
closed setting. But the thing is, like, it was when I had that brief flirtation with Bikram yoga way back in the day.
Yeah, what were you?
So I bought a Groupon. See what had happened is I bought a Groupon, and I thought, and I heard from some people that like Bikram yoga is the shit, and like it's like extreme yoga, and you're gonna like lose weight, and you're gonna be so hot, and like you're gonna be like yoga's on, and like all gorgeous and toned and just like so tough. And I was like, yes, I am tough, and I can handle this.
I like the heat.
And I like heat. I don't like being cold. I can handle the heat. And I'm sure I've told the story to you before, so I won't get into the nitty gritty. Other than like, first of all, after the first time, I was like, I think I'm gonna die because I'm legitimately always dehydrated just in normal temperatures, and then put me in like a 120 degree room or whatever,
Yeah,
it was June. No, it was June. So it was like 110 degrees outside. So the inside, like, it was just super, super hot. And so but then I was like, you know what? But I bought a Groupon. because like at this time I hadn't really thought about the idea that, you know, it's a sunk cost already, whatever. It doesn't like, I don't get,
at the time.
I know, I'm
Girl,
still like that.
like,
I mean, talk to me at an open bar about
that's
sunk
what I mean.
cost. Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
if there was a half a glass of wine and you're like, you know, I'm done, you power through.
I do. No, yeah. I mean, I'm like, oh, how many minutes left on happy hour? Like, whatever. Anyway, let's not talk about my alcohol problems. The point is that I tried to keep going. He kept trying to go to the Bikram. I was like, if I go, you know, whatever. If I go like 24 times, then it's only like $3 a class. We know,
right.
This is the type of math.
Oh, because this was kind of an unlimited.
It was an unlimited group
situation over 2 weeks or a month or whatnot.
Yeah. So I think I went a handful of times actually, and it was horrible. I mean, it was never good. And then one time I went, and it was like, again, it was like June. It was a bad month to be doing this in New York. It was 100 plus degrees. It was an unusually hot June, and I found a great open spot that happened to be like, which I didn't realize until the door closed, right in front of the heater.
Oh, no.
Which is why it was open. And it's close quarters. Also, the room is carpeted for unknown reasons. And there was a man in front of me who was wearing just tidy whities, and we were close together. Bold. And he was pouring. So I mean, I was pouring sweat, but he was pouring sweat. Like, we had our hands in prayer like this, and like the sweat was just
dripping from his elbows.
I mean, like dripping, like pouring off of his elbows, and his underwear almost immediately became sort of baggy see-through. And wet and see-through, and we're like in down dog, and his like balls are like, you know, basically like brushing my hair. Like, it was like horrible. And then I was so hot, I thought I was gonna die, and I had to sit down and just like breathe, and even breathing was like really hard. And then I was like, people aren't meant to do this shit. And you know they really frown on you leaving mid-class because it changes the temperature of the room, whatever. So they're like, even if you just want to sit there like the whole time, that's preferable to you leaving. It's in like a 90-minute class or something crazy, you know? Isn't it really long?
I've never been, because the concept is horrible.
Anyway, so I was like, this is stupid. Why am I doing? Humans aren't meant to do this to themselves, and like I don't need to have somebody's like soggy ball sack in my face, and fuck this. And then I went to Shake Shack and ate a double Shack burger and never went back.
Cheers to that. Mm-hmm. Well, this is what I think, you know, about
nude yoga.
Long distance running.
Oh.
Is that why do we have the legend of marathon?
Because he died. So like, why do we want to aspire to that?
He did something that humans weren't doing because they're not designed to do.
And then he died.
And call me lazy, and I'll take that. Because it might be true.
It won't be me who calls you that. What were we talking about? Oh, my nude event. So I RSVP'd to this nude sound bath because I'm trying to be like all like, you know, self-acceptance and shit, you know? So don't give me that look. I'm trying to be very like, you know, one with myself and whatever. So I was like, maybe I'm trying all sorts of different things to that end. And I thought, you know, maybe like going to this nude sound bath, it sounds really relaxing. It's like all women, and not that that matters particularly, but whatever. So I did RSVP, but then it was canceled, and I got like, so I actually had to email somebody, and I was like, hello, where's the location for this? Because it's like in a private home. Yeah. And I don't have the address. And then she writes back the most hilarious email that's like, you know, we had to cancel this, and you know, we're having, basically the upshot of the email was that they're having like a real schism in their like new social nudism organization. Uh-oh. And so they need to have some like really serious come to Jesus
to talk about the naked truth.
Exactly. And I was like, oh my God, I'm now even more fascinated than I was to begin with, because I want to know what the socio-political
Wait, so what did she say? What does it say? What did it say?
I mean, I could look it up, but basically it was like, we're like really going through some like internal like like disagreements about how we handle these events, and like we need to like go back to the drawing board and like really like reevaluate and blah blah blah. And like, I mean, she told me a little bit too much information. She could have just been like, it's canceled.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even know this person. I've never been to this.
Right.
Like,
Sorry for the inconvenience.
I'm not like a
canceled.
member of the club or
Right.
whatever. I don't even know if it's a club. But like whoever the organizers are having some sort of ideological schism, it seems. And I've never wanted more to be a fly on the wall than like, I mean, I'm sure it's more boring than I think it is, but like, what do you
Always.
think that the debate is about the
Well, this is what did you write back at all?
No, I just said thanks for letting me know.
Man, that's a missed opportunity.
Should I have been like, I'll moderate this?
Oh, I'm sorry to hear. Can you let me know more? Look, you know,
She seemed like
You
she
and I-
wanted to know more. She wanted to tell more.
right.
Sometimes you just have to ask.
Sometimes you have to ask, especially with people like who feel things that it seems in just your brief
Oh,
like,
she had feelings about it for
description.
sure.
If someone's gonna write
She
back
was
enough
like,
to
"Carl,
say
that
anything,
asshole."
she really wanted to talk about the ideology, the politics, the
Right.
you know.
Right, because she probably has like, I mean, I don't know, if you care enough to like organize social nude events in New York City, you know, where it's not that easy to do events.
Right.
Like you probably, like she probably cares about this deeply for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what that is, but I want to know.
So it was canceled because they're not on the
Because
same
of
page.
ideological issues in the...
So did you go back to the website to see if...
I haven't yet done that.
to see if the entire organization's on pause.
I mean, I would imagine that it is. Like, I don't think that the issue was with sound baths. I think that it was like...
I hope it was. You know...
If I'm able to find out more.
What fascinates you and I both are worlds within worlds where people have created...
What I am saying. This is what I'm saying.
This, like... There's so much going
Structures.
on in that
It's a kingdom
nudie
unto
sound
itself.
bath world.
Like,
Yes.
This is a thing that I just sort of like idly was like, that sounds weird. I'll try anything once. Like, let me just do it. But like, what I didn't realize was that I was about to step foot into a whole kingdom unto itself that has its own rules of engagement, has its own petty personal politics. Who turns like nudism into like social petty
Oh, I know.
politics?
This is what's been revealed, especially in the freelance work that we've been doing and the way that we do it for the past couple of years, is that we really come into situations and then leave those situations. Right. There are some freelancers who kind of sit inside organizations for a period of time. We don't do that. We do our work from home remotely. We step in to do the job. We step back out. And I was doing a job earlier this week, and I stepped into what was fine for me, but I stepped into a world in which I had all of these people,
politics,
with all of these feelings and all of this anxiety and drama, and it's like, as a person who has just stepped in, it's like there's nothing going wrong right now.
Right.
No one's upset. You know, it's
I think also like it's so much easier as the freelancer to have, you know, because you have perspective on it in a way, like, because you want, you know, when you're working somewhere, you get sucked in immediately to the interpersonal dramas and like the power struggles and the whatnot. But like when you're just like a guest star, you just come in and you're like, a lot happening here, like, bye. Like, and it's kind of like you can sort of see, like, if anybody asked me, I'd be like, well, he and she just need to like have a quick meeting and get on the same page and just like really talk about their feelings. You need to fire her.
Yes. It's usually like those two are mad at each other, but it's really because of that person over there.
And that person just really doesn't need to be on a keto diet.
Right.
Because that's really affecting their mood swings during the day. So if you just give her a cupcake, get those two in a room together to duke it out and fire that person, like, you're going to be golden. But like, you know what? No one ever asks. So.
But that is part of the value add of a freelancer, I think, is they can step in and really just like
see it from the outside.
Yeah.
The last thing that I have on my really stupid list is just a moment that happened on the subway, which is that I got my headphones tangled on the button, the back pocket button. of an old man on like his trousers, you know, like
Yeah.
on the subway, and it was like somehow totally like
Wound
around
around.
the button in a way that he got up to leave the train, or like moved to leave the train, and then I was like towed along, and then I was trying to explain to him that, sir, like I'm stuck, but it was like so wound around that it wasn't just like I could just pull it.
Yeah.
I had to like touch his butt a few times, and I'm not sure that he fully understood what was happening, and he was like, it's okay, but then I was like, he was confused about how I was touching him, and it was terrible, and I was embarrassed, but it reminded me of a different incident where at my first job, at
In
our
New York.
first job
Oh.
in New York, together, I got called into a meeting with my boss, and he was really mad about something.
Mm-hmm. We always were.
Everybody was always mad about something. And he was like in a tizzy, and then I was sitting down in his office, and then he came in like,
Yeah.
and he went to go slam the door shut so that we could have whatever meeting we were going to have, which like already was going to be bad.
Yeah.
And he got the door handle, like it was like
Oh no.
like,
What's gonna happen?
do you know this story? He got the door handle, got stuck on the belt loop of his pants, so then he went to go, but he didn't realize it, so then he went to go
Slam
the door shut, and like ripped the back half of his pants basically off. And so I'm sitting there, he's like super like enraged,
Yeah.
and now his like
Ass is
underwear,
hanging
his
out.
ass is like hanging out, half of it is hanging out, and so, and this makes him even more enraged. Like he, like it's not like he laughed, he
Yeah.
got like even more angry. But like I'm looking at his butt, and then I'm like, what do I do? So embarrassing. It's like almost worse in that scenario to be me than it was to be him, in my mind, because he's like an authority figure, and I'm supposed to, you know, I'm like 23, and I'm supposed to.
So what'd you do? Went bought him pants?
I like, I don't know. I have a blackout after that. I don't know what happened. I
have really good
like,
stories
pretended.
about clothing malfunctions, but they're not my stories, so I don't want to tell them for other people.
Oh my god, that's so enticing.
I know.
Can you give me just like a little hint? We can cut it out if it's like not okay.
Well,
Is it about pooping your pants?
it's it's
Really? Is
Yeah.
it really?
yes.
Okay.
But what makes it funny are particulars.
That would be too revealing about the individuals involved.
I mean, I can try, and then you can cut this out if it
Okay.
doesn't work.
Okay.
A person that you and I both know well had some GI problems at one point, okay, and was at work. And this person had dated someone at that workplace, and it was a small workplace. And this person had problems in the pants. Also, I should say this, because this is important to the story, worked at a place where for reason all of the trash cans were also small, so they didn't hold a lot. So it's very conspicuous if you threw something away. So this person had a problem and wanted to go commando because they had no option for the rest of the day and get rid of underwear.
The evidence.
But they couldn't get rid of the evidence because the person they were dating would recognize the underwear.
Okay. Because like,
In the
because
small
the
trash can.
ex had seen the underwear
Yes.
in situ. So to
Yes,
speak.
yes.
Okay. So the underwear would be recognizable and therefore could not be discarded in the workplace.
On the property.
Yeah.
So this person then had to walk to a public park.
Oh my god. With
Make up
some
an excuse to
poop-
leave school
poop
to
underwear.
walk. Yes, with poopy underwear in their hands to throw it away in a public park.
And on that colorful note.
And on that note, we have reservations,
Oh shit.
so we need to
gotta
go.
get moving.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, we have to go see the people.
They must be seen. All right.
Okay, this is part 2 of our conversation with burlesque star and producer Veronica Viper. She also happens to be our dear friend and creative collaborator on several live shows in the past years and on some scripted projects coming up later this year. Let's get right into it, and remember to keep in touch with Veronica at the Veronica Viper 2 on Instagram. I feel like we're getting such good audio on the alcohol pouring.
I have a question back that is not related to this current conversation.
Yes.
If you two don't mind.
Go for it.
But I have thought about this a lot, and I would like to hear your thoughts on this.
I've thought about you a lot.
I've thought about you a lot. I've thought about this topic a lot.
That made me feel so good.
In relation to where drag is in popular culture, in the world, before even Drag Race, and where burlesque is, and what burlesque is thought to be, versus what drag is thought to be.
I love this question. I love this question because I think that there are so many shows that exist in the burlesque world, at least in the New York scene, where there's some shows where there's a boundary drawn between drag and burlesque.
Yes.
And then there's, which I think is, I think personally, artistically is weird.
A strange line to draw. Yeah.
And then there are shows where they commingle in a way that's completely interchangeable, and the drag queens and the burlesque people of whatever orientation they are like, it's such a like exchange, a creative exchange, and I want, like, and to me, I've always felt like it's the same family. It's the same family. It's the same thing. So, I mean, it's not the same thing, but it's sort of.
I mean, it's not. It's not because of gay panic, and it's not because of the extremely rigid boundaries of heterosexuality.
This is my thoughts. This is also, I mean, Amrita and I have
talked
a little bit about it, but this might, a gay man is still a man, and can do things a man can do, and can, it's just,
Precisely. Precisely. Because there is a certain amount of, especially for a stereotypical heteronormative audience, as opposed to a queer audience, which in general, right off the bat, is already it's already assembled of marginalized people who have already experienced the trauma and have already experienced enough life to have them understand the nuance of what's taking place, as opposed to these people who have had everything about the lifestyle they live to be completely reinforced by every aspect. So, of course, the men go to watch the women take their clothes off. Like, it just makes sense.
Right.
So, if it's not a total joke where the drag queen comes out and hosts and is some form of clown.
Right.
Drag queen is clown.
Cam,
right.
Clown, yeah.
If it's not that one particular case, it is absolutely not welcome in a scene where heterosexual men are finding their sexual arousal.
Yeah.
See, what I thought you were getting at there was that the ability for drag to cross over to the mainstream in a way that burlesque hasn't.
That's where I thought
you were going, and I don't know if that's where you were going.
But I absolutely think it's the same question, and I think it's the same answer. I think the
because I thought what you were saying is that men perform drag versus predominantly women perform drag.
Absolutely, that is, yes, that's the point I was heading toward.
Now this is just thinking out loud about it, because I think it's a really complex question, and I think that it's strange that it hasn't happened yet for burlesque. It should have happened already. I'm surprised there aren't 12 reality shows about it, Cincinnati Burlesque Queen, whatever.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Oh my God, I would watch the fuck out of that,
absolutely.
though.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I'm really surprised by that. I'm sure it's under development somewhere, but
If it isn't, let's get on that.
If it is, and anybody's listening. But no, like, I think that it's gay men have just about in American society gained enough respectability to where something like drag can start entering the bloodstream of the country, because we gay men are a known quantity at this point. Cis gay men are a known quantity at this point. They're marketed.
Cis gay men who agree to live a heteronormative lifestyle.
Yes,
correct.
Yes, absolutely.
Correct.
Yes, because then we get more into a conversation of like, how do we
marry?
use the
Let's
label
have
queer?
kids.
Like,
I can live next door.
White picket
I can live
fence.
next door to them as
Right.
long as their two
Right.
people are married together and they have
100%.
their kids and.
As long as they're Pete Buttigieg.
Yeah, and we go to Pete. Yeah, as long as they're Pete Buttigieg, I'm fine with it. They can
Yes.
wear a wig and we can have fun.
Yes, 100%. And I think that there's enough room for that. And when you take the idea of putting these gay men with these heterosexual women and these gender variant individuals and these other people
Who might feel different on a Tuesday than they do on a Thursday.
Yeah,
Shock me.
holy shit.
People could change their minds.
Yeah. Can you imagine?
Fluidity.
Now,
Yeah.
now you've taken that known quantity and have made it queer.
Mm-hmm.
And queer is an unknown quantity. And that's the
By
problem.
nature.
By nature.
By nature.
And that is
you
the
know?
that is the thing.
That is the definition of the problem for them. And the key reason why it's a problem for them is because it's harder to make money off of an unknown quantity.
So I mean,
that offends so many sensibilities.
Right.
Like, I mean, I would love to know what a drag performer feels about it, because I think that there is enough of a difference between the two.
Oh, there is.
That-
Yeah.
do you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah. They're not the same.
No, for sure they're not the same. And
But I mean, there's
what's
crossover,
what's
right?
the crossover about it?
Like,
Can you
okay.
identify the crossover?
No, like, so for instance, okay, so you and I went to, we went to High Concepts in January. Remember,
Yes.
went to the doll show, and love that show, great show.
Yes,
And you know, that is a context in which you see drag and burlesque being sort of completely integrated in a way that's like, these are we are the same, we're the same. But also, with that said, the drag that we saw that night was a burlesque act in drag.
Yes.
I mean, I can give you an umbrella of opinions about things like that, but let's also say like Switch and Play. So Switch and Play has been performing drag and burlesque in New York City for, I think, like 12 years or something like that.
And they do it well.
And it's never been an issue, and it's done seamlessly,
Right.
and it's done well, and they have people of every walk of life on that stage. Perhaps there are not too many cis hetero white women on that stage, you know what I mean?
Which is fine.
Which
But
is,
yeah.
which is fine,
something
because
I think is
there are
something to
plenty
note.
of-
It's something
there
to
are-
note. It's
there
notable.
are-
It's notable.
Exactly, because
Yeah.
there are plenty of stages
Yeah.
for cis het white women to get naked on. There are plenty of other stages for them.
Yeah.
Still notable, although that's not what Andrew was getting at. He was just saying it's notable because
Well,
Andrew's
I
version
will only
is
say this, and that
open
you
arms.
and I, and all three of us, sort of agree on a certain philosophy when we're talking about any marginalized community, any sort of issue that is that is outside of the norm, and that if there is a pendulum, I don't see swinging to the other extreme that as the solution to something. And I only say this in that, like, we've had conversations about, like, programming something that is more diverse, that includes more voices, doesn't mean excluding anybody.
Right. Absolutely.
So the express exclusion, that's the only point
But
I bring up. Is the
I also
exclusion
think
of
like
anything.
pendulum is the wrong word for it, because what that to me suggests
sure it is.
a centrist viewpoint, which I don't think anybody sitting here at this table has a centrist viewpoint. We are extremists in our viewpoints in the ways we are. We're not Joe Biden in this conversation, right? No. So the question is like, for me, I feel a little bit is that the exclusionary space where the cis white woman is excluded from the space is a way station on the way for us to get to a place where there's an inclusionary space that all the things can.
I want to know what you think, like, because
I think so.
I've been troubled.
Evolutionary
I think so,
step.
personally. I mean, I don't know. Maybe that's.
Well, no, I'm a white man, so there's a certain level of like blindness that I just
like
it
I'm
just comes with my package.
Straightish woman.
I don't
so
mean my penis, but I just mean my presentation. So you tell me. But like,
I certainly understand the need for it.
I understand the need for it. I understand the need for it in the way that
is
have
something
to have.
I can compute. That is those words compute for me, and I think that's what you were saying.
Yes,
too.
And I think that those are spaces of healing and spaces of recuperation. You see, and that's how I relate to those spaces, because also like being a queer person, being a radically queer person, I also don't like embed myself very much in the queer community. You know, it's just I don't feel comfortable there, because I also feel, probably because I'm white, that I have enough resources internally that I don't have to stay in that space. I don't have to stay in that space. So you feel like
you have options?
I have options, personally.
Okay. Yeah. No, I mean, I agree with that, but I also think that, like, that's for
not everybody does.
I think that's also generous of you in the sense that, how do I say this? Like, I just think that's like really notable to be like, oh yeah, well I can like move in multiple spaces, and therefore like I don't.
There are a lot of spaces.
There are spaces
you can't move in.
Yeah, and like I don't mean that in a bad way, but I just think that's really like to me that like wow, like that.
Well, I also think I think that's also like why I feel okay, not perfect, but why I feel okay with identifying as a radical queer. You know what I mean? Because I do know that there's a certain percentage of people that have to start showing up in these spaces to start corrupting it. For lack of a better word. You know what I mean? It's like a free radical cell, and I'm so happy to compare it to cancer. You know what I'm saying? But like what it is that there is a structure in place that needs to be removed. Do you know what I mean? And you can't remove the entire establishment at once. It needs to be infiltrated. You know what I mean?
Right. And this is where my pragmatism gets in the way.
Right.
To your point about being safe spaces, which I understand, there's like a lot I understand intellectually, but then when it comes to applying, I realized recently I have a deep need to apply a principle across every situation.
So for instance, I mean, I think to like sort of bring this in concrete, like Andrew and I have often had conversations about the fact that Andrew does not feel, sorry not to speak for you, but like has never felt like, oh, I want to be in an exclusively gay male space. Like that is never something you've craved. No. And what you have told me, like, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, but like what you crave is a space where all your people of various orientations can be together and freely doing the thing, and
with no pretensions.
And like honestly, like in a weird kind of like really weird way, like I feel like sometimes like I almost have more comfort in hanging out in like gay male space, like which is really messed up and should not be, but like
I don't relate to like,
because like when Jason and I go out, we always go to like sort of those exclusively like Hell's Kitchen, like
gay bars,
no, and never spend time there.
Not for me.
Well, I mean, so much like Well, there's a fuck ton to unpack there. There really is like a fuck ton to unpack there, but so much of it is centered around the concept of violence. And the question is this: you enjoying that space because you are not under threat
Correct.
from men.
Correct.
Which you've
And
acknowledged
you-
before.
Yeah, I have.
And you being a 6'2", broad-shouldered white man, I'm sure has not had many instances where someone
Was physically threatening to.
was physically threatening to you, or let's say, said they want to stab you because you didn't want to fuck them.
Right. No.
You know what I mean? Or
Right.
or be followed
Never.
home for 5 blocks screaming obscenities
Oh my
at you,
God.
and
Right.
you know what I
That's
mean?
happened a couple of times where people, but no.
Well, I mean-
Not where I felt like I was actually.
threatened.
like
physically.
actually threatened.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is just, and this is just one aspect of that view, is like when you have experienced that, and when that is just part of the infrastructure of society,
Right.
as it is for women.
And for trans women
Uh,
particularly.
forget about it when you start getting into that.
I'm
It's-
saying, I think it's
100%.
important to
trans
say,
women,
like, I
and
don't
then
want,
furthermore trans women of color.
right.
You know what I
Like,
mean?
I don't think it's
And-
useful to like completely put those in the same bucket. 'Cause
Yeah.
it's not the same.
Well, but
In terms of the
all
threat.
stems from the
It
same.
is. It
all
is. No, but it
stems from the
is. But
same
it's
issue,
it's
you know?
more. It's exacerbated.
It's exacerbated. It is exacerbated for a myriad of reasons.
Yeah. Okay, tell me if you disagree. That's okay.
I disagree.
Okay, tell me.
I disagree.
Okay.
I agree and disagree. I agree.
It's just a more intensely focused version of the same thing,
It's a more conspicuous target for sure.
for sure.
But
yes.
But the reasons
my
maybe
fear is that I just feel like women get the short end of the stick all the time. And
you won't
like,
hear us arguing about that. Okay.
Anyway.
See.
Anyway, I won't go too far into
No.
that. but
I mean, yeah.
I think we should we should all make a habit of like, whenever women say like, well, but like your pain is like worse than my pain, and it's like, it's just a habit we shouldn't get into.
Yeah, for 100%. 100%.
Not that we're in
think,
that habit right now.
No, but I think that's why I think it's very important to talk in principles
Yes.
over technique. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And like, and meaning like, there are so many ways that it's more difficult for a trans woman of color than it is for a trans woman, and there's so many more ways that are difficult for a non-passing trans woman
Yes.
as a more conspicuous target,
Yes.
as opposed to someone who may just be feeling it and still passing under the radar, living
Right.
stealth.
Right.
My sister's living stealth. God bless you, but like,
Yeah.
Ooh, that's interesting to hear.
but like, it's all based on violence towards women. So you're correct, Andrew, in the sense of, were that violence towards women somehow
Vanished.
evaporated from society, I think absolutely that would also in turn kind of release homophobia and kind of release
Oh,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
because
That is what I'm
Absolutely.
responding to.
Absolutely.
In
Absolutely.
all male gay spaces, like, there is a...
Well, there's still toxic masculinity in
Of
male
course.
gay
Toxic
spaces.
of course, which also
Which is
comes
just like when
from
a gay
a
man's
fear
like,
of
oh
being
my God.
womanly.
Yesterday, it's like one of our friends mentioned that someone else had said that, like,
Oh my
I
god,
had
this blew my mind. I was so uncomfortable during this moment. Okay, so we had a friend over I had a friend over,
Yes.
and she, sorry, I don't want to
No,
hijack
go ahead.
you, but she said something about how like she was hanging out with a bunch of our other friends who happened to all be gay men.
Mm-hmm.
She said, "Oh, they were so shocked that you were once hetero."
That's what she said. I was thrown off, and it took me a minute to like process.
And you rephrased it and you said, "Oh, you mean that
That
I've
had
had
sex
sex
with
with women before?"
Yeah, and she was just telling, she was just relaying a conversation.
She wasn't
Right.
saying there was no judgment for her. Yeah,
Right.
she was
right. But it was like
It was just the phrase.
the other like we're like, you know, quote unquote gold
Gold
star
star.
gays. Like, we never had sex
Never
with a
had
woman.
sex with a woman,
And I'm
yeah.
like, That just baffles that
like
concept,
pure blood gay.
like,
is that what that means?
and it goes
Yeah, it's
back
like
to
muggle,
the
mudblood.
Aryan,
Yeah, the mud.
the Aryan race of gays.
as if a vagina is something to fear
Yes.
or something that is less
Yes.
than, and it's just, I mean, that has always disgusted me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's all because it is disgusting. It's internalized toxic masculinity, is what.
Yeah. And so when I'm in gay spaces, there's always jokes about like, ooh, vagina, and it's like, are we really? Is this where we are
In this era, in this time,
in this era, in this time, in this space? We're gonna spend time talking about a gender who has gotten the short end of the
But
stick.
it's not even just about vaginas; it's about femininity.
That is expressed through a cisgendered feminine body. It's fine if you're feminine if you're dressed up in drag and doing your thing.
But not if you're trans.
But not if you're trans. And
It's like if it's a
woman.
costume versus an identity, it's different.
Because we know at the end of the day we can take all that off.
Right. And then we just
we
as
still
boys.
have a dick.
Yeah.
It's gross.
It's gross. It's disgusting.
And so, to the point about a queer space, while I understand it, my inclination is to apply the same principle across spaces.
Right.
So it's like I support it in the sense that it is beyond my.
Well, you're open enough to understand that, like.
It's like I know you need it, and I still don't like it because I don't like the world that creates the need. You know, like
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Right.
I'm raging against the world that creates the need, and it's inconsistent because I want to support you, but I don't want to support this space that excludes anyone because I don't want anyone to exclude anyone.
Yes.
And why do we exclude anyone? And now I don't know where to be because I don't want to be in your queer space that says only queer people, and I don't want to be in your gay male space because you're fucking
And definitely
asshole.
not the straight space.
And I don't want to be over there either. So like,
Yeah, but I also think that is one of the important aspects about welcoming non-people. whatever.
by that you mean straight cis people.
Well, but like no, because maybe it's like a cis gay man that wants to be in a queer space, or it's a cis white woman, or it's a whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like whatever the variant of that person is, if they want to extend themselves and
not take up more space
and not take up more space than that's theirs to take, what's the problem? You know what I mean?
It's just that it's like easier to bar all the cis women or whatever than it is to bar the cis women who are there to have their bachelorette party and like infringe on other people's space.
Yes.
And on one hand, I sort of understand.
Example.
You know what I mean? Because I sort of understand that because it's like, well, how do you enforce the nuance? So therefore, like, I mean,
no, you
I don't.
can't.
I'm not saying I agree with it. I'm saying
Yeah.
I'm saying like I understand the impulse to be like, well, it's easier to just blanket. You know.
Well, it's. I mean, I also think that it also works in like a gradation of just kind of like over time you build an audience. You know what I mean? And if those people have filtered away from your audience, it's because you're geared towards things that don't include them. And if that causes a space where you don't get many of those people.
Right. So in this case, you're appealing to an ideology that attracts,
the right-minded
point of view and
folks.
ideology that attract those people.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now how do you avoid that becoming an awful, segregating, racially driven, gender driven, sexuality driven sense of bigotry? And I mean that's something that's present throughout all of society, and it's just like there's something in our nature to want to gather with our own kind, so to speak. You know, and as long as there's no express rule that a certain type of person is not welcome.
Well, I think also gathering with your own type. Yes, I think you hit on the key point here, though, is that yes, we have as humans an impulse to self-segregate along certain self-identified lines. I think what I find meaningful is what are those lines? Segregating along lines of like we're all white, or we're all gay men, or we're all, or we're all this, or we're all, or are we segregating along different, perhaps more meaningful lines, like I like this band and you don't,
right.
Or I like this aesthetic and you don't like this aesthetic. I'm a goth, or I'm into metal, or I'm like whatever. And like, so I think like, yes, we have these impulses to segregate and identify each other. Like, what actually are the meaningful metrics of segregation versus the non-meaningful metrics of segregation?
What are the actual lines, and what is
imposed on us,
our own nonsensical creations,
our upbringing, our society we live in. The world.
Right. Yeah, this is my drunk TED talk. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, listen, that's the question, right?
I have a question for you that is pretty heavy.
Uh-oh.
Why?
Here we are.
Because I'm curious about it. Because I'm curious about it. No other reason.
Are you comfortable? Would you like to switch seats with me? You've been
good.
sitting on the edge of this couch for a long time. Okay.
How do you feel about commenting on issues of gender? Like, where do you feel like you know,
what is?
Do you ever?
I don't understand the question.
Yeah. Do you mean like me personally, or do you mean like me as a trans person?
You
like,
as a trans person.
Do I, like, you ask me a question, and am I speaking for all trans
you,
people?
No,
you know what I mean? Like,
no, you're not speaking for all trans people, but as a trans person, do you ever? What are your feelings about speaking for living? You can clearly speak as living as a trans person.
Mm-hmm.
But at some point that crosses into issues of what it means to live as a woman.
Mm-hmm.
And are there ever times when you feel conflicted about talking about that? Like
100%.
Yeah.
Like, do you mean like my own validity on speaking
on
the subject?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because you're talking about a concept that like permeates every aspect of my existence. You know what I mean? Like, it's especially in what I do, especially in performing, especially in being in these
putting yourself
tight,
on display
intimate
too.
spaces with other cis women, and if there are 4 women in the dressing room and 3 of them are playing grab ass and 1 isn't, because I don't know where the appropriate line is or how they're going to feel about it because of what I look like.
Right.
You see? And it's even in this like tight space where it's really intimate, which is one of these reasons for these rapidly developing super intimate relationships. There's an inherent exclusion. You know what I mean?
Or you're constantly thinking about it too.
Oh, absolutely. And like, also like, this is going beyond like the conversations of consent and things like this. Like, it's we're talking on a more kind of perceived comfort with each other's bodies. Do you see what I'm saying?
And you can't necessarily assume that.
And not only can I not assume it, I also can't relate. I've never experienced comfort in my body. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So now getting there and then being pushed back to that space because this experience clearly lets me know how different I am. Like there's just no avoiding it.
It's funny because like I've actually said this to Andrew before. Again, we may cut this, but that like so you often bring up the concept of non-passing, non-pass, and that's something that always makes me feel really uncomfortable.
Does it?
Yeah. In that like
in what way?
Yeah. That
Like sad?
No, like I had never thought of that.
Mm-hmm.
Because to me, the idea of like what is passing and non-passing is so a statement on other people versus you.
Of course, 100%.
And so I get it. Like I understand why that can be a
Mm-hmm.
useful phrase, but it always really like, I don't know. It just
Because it sucks.
Yeah.
it makes me very uncomfortable.
Absolutely. It should.
Because
It's an uncomfortable concept.
It's an uncomfortable concept
because
I'm
it's
like,
based on
You're-
popular beauty standards
You're
that are
right.
that are
Right.
imposed
And
by
if-
the same ones.
But the thing is that
are-
if you that's that reflects on all of us. That's
course.
on all of us.
Of course.
So if you feel like non-passing is a useful term, that is automatically everyone's
speaks
discomfort
to-
and
yeah.
everyone's fight, you know, and so it's a discomfort that I appreciate having brought to my table because it's like
yes, absolutely. And that's why I say it, and I usually say it quite pointedly. It's the reason why you feel it that way is because you understand what I'm saying. You understand what I'm saying when I say I don't pass.
and who gets to be the fucking gatekeeper of that? It just
But you have to respond
And
to
it
that
doesn't,
person.
like,
You
what's
have to respond to
amazing
those
about it-
people who decide.
You do have to respond to them.
Yeah.
You can't ignore that they exist.
You have to respond to them knowing that you need something they might have, or they're an authority figure, or they're in power, or they're a...
That 100%. And I'm not a dancer.
Right.
I don't claim to be like some amazing fucking performer or whatever it was.
You're an amazing performer.
Thank you for saying it, but I didn't say it. Is what my point is. All right. But I know that there are certain places, there are certain venues, there are certain producers, there are certain shows that it doesn't matter how great of a performer I am. It doesn't matter how riveted the audiences are. It doesn't matter the things that people tell me after I perform, the things that people come up and say to me, that it's all irrelevant because I don't pass. I don't make the grade.
Yeah.
You see? And that should piss people off.
It should.
I mean, it boggles my mind.
Yeah.
In like New York City, and
Yeah.
like, I mean, it just makes me think even deeper about like, what are you watching when you're watching your performance? Like, what are you?
Okay, that's the artistic viewpoint, and absolutely.
Like, what is the?
If you're not transported,
metric? Yeah.
can we have some final thoughts?
What are some things to wrap it up?
Yeah.
Well, okay, so we talked a few weeks ago, last time we got together, just sort of about a lot of things, but what it brought up for me was this, who you are as an artist, what it is you have to say. And I'm curious to know, as you develop, whether it's in burlesque or other ways, because you're far more than just a burlesque performer. Not that
You're
would...
you're an artist.
Well, I was about to fucking go nuts on you. I'm so glad you started the backpedal there. Go ahead.
Because that's all you would, that's great too.
I believe that burlesque is one of the most versatile forms of performance that can be used
Let me give you
incredibly powerful
I
ways.
agree, and let me give you some context. Is that we've talked a lot about some of the artists that we admire a lot are people who have a message, message to convey, that and sometimes you find the right medium, right? And you find the right medium in the right time. And for you right now, and for maybe forever, but but at least for the foreseeable future, that medium is burlesque. That doesn't, I think, to my mind, mean that you're not going to be an author and a singer and a playwright and a screenwriter.
What
And
about voice work? I really want to do voice work.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Is it velvety?
It is ASMR. All the things. It's about not the medium, but the the message sort of
Yeah.
transcending the medium, and that's the type of artist I think that
You
are.
put that much better than I did.
No, I just
Thank
because
you.
I knew what you were trying to
Thank you for
say.
saving me.
Because saying something like just this, just
I
or
mean,
just
the
that
word just
is reductive.
is reductive. Yeah.
And that is not what you meant.
I
know
caught
that's
myself.
I know that's not what you meant to say. So that's kind of what you, but like,
Yes.
sorry, continue, Ed.
But in thinking the way that Amrita so eloquently phrased it, across all of those mediums, what would you say is your, artistic, what is your point of view, or what is your, and I don't want to, again, to be too reductive and to have you say like, this is my
Thesis statement for
this
life.
is my thesis statement, but on some level I do want you to do that.
Not this, but this.
If you had a North Star of what you would say that your art was, what would it be? I know it's a little heavy. And
Yeah.
thinking of what you've already created.
And this can change.
Absolutely. Everything can
certainly
change.
it can change. I mean, right now, what is it about right
Yes.
now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Where are we at? Where are we at? Where are we?
And you know what? I think that might be the most important thing to explore. Always. Because I was thinking about this. It's funny you said that, because I was thinking about I revisited a self-help book that I read years ago.
Marianne Williamson.
And she wrote this book in
An
19...
invitation to what's
something
it called?
about that. Yeah, or something about love. Something about love.
Let's just forget her presidential campaign for a minute. Let's just go
Yeah.
wherever she
Well,
went.
she is who she is. And
Yes,
it is a book that she wrote in 1992.
Okay.
Not that long ago, 30 years, but whatever. And
Who's counting?
point being that even but the core truths are embedded in language about the time and place that she's in. So while there's nothing new on the earth, which is really like nothing, like everything has been done before.
Everything's been done before, absolutely.
And you can either look at that as like a sad truth, or you can just know that is sort of like a freeing principle.
Of course.
That, like, I'm not creating something that has never been seen before, but what I am creating is something that needs to be seen in this time with the language of this time.
And that's how we bring it back around, because what that is the framework. And that's the framework that gives someone like me the freedom to be the radical person that I need to be right now. If it wasn't for that history, there's no space for me to push the lines. Like, I don't think it's egotistical for me and all trans people
Yes.
are on a vanguard of change that is taking place now.
Right.
It's a much different struggle than the struggle of the gay community, which is a different front on that war. You know what I mean? That war is not won, but that line is way further over into the territory, and I think that's where we're at. and I think being on the cusp of it is without that history, without that framework there, you can't push that line forward.
Right.
And then with hope, with any luck, pushing forward something even a little bit adds to that framework.
Oof.
So
And you
more,
do that by responding to the times.
Where you
by
are,
saying-
and
where
who
you are at the
you
time.
are.
Yes, because you have to be there.
I mean,
in
okay,
order
so
to make that
I've been having
change.
this conversation with a friend of ours who she's a visual artist, a designer, about her sort of rage about the lack of protest art, resistance art, and our desire to try to feel like, what can we do? What can we do as artists? What can we do in a time where things feel like they're like, I mean, every generation feels like everything is at the worst it's ever been and things are falling apart. But with that said, things really feel like they're fucking falling apart.
It's pretty terrifying.
And so it's like, well, what can I be doing? Like, what can I be doing as like a creative person or whatever? And so I think this to me says something.
It's difficult. I see.
But without having to say meaningfully, like, what am I going to do to like rally the people? The question is, where are we? Where am I? Where are we?
Where are we?
And I think personally, as an artist, the only responsibility an artist has, even if they choose to work in a political medium, because let's face it, burlesque is a political medium.
Word.
Like, what I choose to focus on politically is completely incidental. I am on stage and I take a dress off, and that is a political act because of who I am and because of the fact that I don't pass.
Right.
Yes.
And that means, where the fuck are we?
And cut.
You can subscribe to us anywhere you listen to podcasts and find us at vjandstevens.com. That's VIJAY and Stevens with a PH. We're working on some scripts and some fun new live projects. You can find us at VJ and Stevens on Instagram, and our assistant Susan now tweets at Memos from Susan.